Brutal wars between Rome and Germania. The wars between Rome and the Germanic tribes were characterized by relentless brutality, fierce resistance, and devastating consequences for both sides. These conflicts spanned centuries, from Julius Caesar's early encounters with the tribes to the eventual collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Below is a detailed exploration of some of the most brutal wars and battles that defined the Roman-Germanic struggle. 1. The Gallic Wars and early Germanic skirmishes, 58 to 50 BC. Key event: Caesar's campaign against the Suebi. Key figure: Julius Caesar. During his conquest of Gaul, Julius Caesar faced incursions from Germanic tribes, notably the Suebi under Ariovistus. These skirmishes were marked by terror tactics on both sides. Brutality: Caesar ordered mass executions of Germanic warriors who surrendered. Germanic tribes often retaliated by massacring Roman-aligned Gauls and taking slaves. Outcome: Caesar decisively defeated the Suebi at the Battle of Vosges, forcing them back across the Rhine and securing the region for Rome. 2. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, 9 AD. Key event: the ambush and annihilation of 3 Roman legions. Key figures: Publius Quinctilius Varus, Rome, versus Arminius, Charusai. Perhaps the most infamous clash in the Roman-Germanic Wars, this ambush led to one of the worst defeats in Roman history. Brutality: Arminius' forces ambushed the Roman legions in dense forests, slaughtering approximately 20,000 soldiers over several days. Surviving Roman soldiers were reportedly tortured and sacrificed to Germanic gods. Roman captives were executed, while their heads were displayed as trophies. Outcome: the Teutoburg Forest Massacre halted Roman expansion into Germania and became a symbol of Germanic resistance. 3. The Revenge Campaigns of Germanicus, 14 to 16 AD. Key event: Roman retribution for Teutoburg. Key figure: Germanicus. In response to the Teutoburg disaster, Germanicus, nephew of Emperor Tiberius, led a brutal series of campaigns to punish the Germanic tribes. Brutality: Germanicus' forces burned villages, destroyed crops, and massacred tribes to avenge Roman losses. At the Battle of Idistavizo, Roman forces inflicted heavy casualties on the Charusai and their allies. Survivors were enslaved or left to starve as their homelands were razed. Outcome: while Germanicus reclaimed 2 lost legionary eagles, the logistical challenges of holding Germania led Rome to abandon further attempts at conquest. 4. The Marcomannic Wars, 166 to 180 AD. Key event: Germanic invasions of the Danube frontier. Key figure: Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The Marcomannic Wars were a series of brutal conflicts that tested Rome's ability to defend its northern borders. Brutality: Germanic tribes like the Marcomanni, Quadi, and Sarmatians invaded Roman territories, sacking towns and enslaving Roman citizens. Roman retaliations included large-scale executions of prisoners and the razing of tribal settlements. At Carnuntum, entire Germanic villages were reportedly wiped out by Roman legions. Outcome: Marcus Aurelius eventually stabilized the frontier through a combination of military victories and treaties, though at a tremendous cost to both sides. 5. The Crisis of the 3rd Century, 235 to 284 AD. Key event: repeated raids by the Alemanni and Goths. During the Crisis of the 3rd Century, Rome faced relentless invasions from Germanic tribes exploiting its internal instability. Brutality: the Alemanni and Goths sacked Roman towns across Gaul, the Balkans, and Italy, massacring civilians and taking captives. Roman generals like Gallienus and Aurelian responded with scorched earth tactics, decimating entire Germanic populations in retaliatory campaigns. Outcome: while Rome managed to repel many invasions, the cost in lives and resources left the empire severely weakened. 6. The Gothic War and the Battle of Adrianople, 376 to 378 AD. Key event: the defeat of the Roman army by the Visigoths. Key figure: Emperor Valens. The arrival of the Huns forced the Visigoths to seek refuge within Roman borders, but mistreatment by Roman officials led to rebellion. Brutality: at the Battle of Adrianople, the Visigoths annihilated the Roman army, killing Emperor Valens and tens of thousands of soldiers. The Visigoths raided Roman provinces, killing civilians and destroying infrastructure. Roman reprisals were equally severe, with Goths captured and sold into slavery or executed. Outcome: the battle shattered Roman control over the Balkans and marked a turning point in the empire's decline. 7. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths, 410 AD. Key event: the first sack of Rome in 800 years. Key figure: Alaric, Visigothic king. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths under Alaric I was a devastating event that symbolized the collapse of Roman power in the West. Brutality: the Visigoths plundered the city for 3 days, though they spared many religious sites. Thousands of Roman citizens were killed or enslaved, and the city's wealth was stripped. Outcome: the sack sent shockwaves across the Roman world and marked the beginning of the end for the Western Empire. 8. The Vandal conquest of North Africa and sack of Rome, 439 to 455 AD. Key event: the Vandals' Mediterranean raids. Key figure: Genseric, Vandal king. The Vandals, after conquering Roman North Africa, launched devastating naval raids across the Mediterranean. Brutality: the Vandals enslaved entire towns and destroyed key Roman cities. During the sack of Rome, 455 AD, the Vandals stripped the city of its treasures and took thousands of captives, though they avoided mass slaughter. Outcome: the loss of North Africa crippled the Western Empire's economy, hastening its collapse. 9. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus, 476 AD. Key event: the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Key figure: Odoacer, Germanic chieftain. The final blow to the Western Roman Empire came when the Germanic chieftain Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus, the last Roman emperor in the West. Brutality: Odoacer's forces seized control of Italy, executing rival leaders and dismantling Roman institutions. Roman officials who resisted were exiled or killed. Outcome: this event marked the end of Roman imperial rule in the West, though the Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium, endured for another millennium. Themes of brutality in the Roman-Germanic Wars. Civilians as victims. Both sides frequently targeted civilian populations through massacres, enslavement, and destruction of settlements. Scorched earth tactics. The systematic destruction of resources to starve out enemies was a common strategy, often leaving regions depopulated. Psychological warfare. Both Romans and Germanic tribes used fear tactics, such as public executions, to demoralize their enemies. Sacred sites as targets. Temples, groves, and religious sites were often destroyed, highlighting the cultural dimensions of the conflict. Conclusion: a legacy of violence and transformation. The brutal wars between Rome and Germania were not just military conflicts but existential struggles for survival and dominance. These wars reshaped the map of Europe, marked the decline of the Roman Empire, and laid the foundation for the medieval kingdoms that would emerge from the ashes. Despite the violence, these struggles also fostered cultural exchange, blending Roman and Germanic traditions into a new European identity. Would you like to explore specific battles, tactics, or cultural consequences of? Conclusion: a legacy of violence and transformation. The brutal wars between Rome and Germania were not just military conflicts but existential struggles for survival and dominance. These wars reshaped the map of Europe, marked the decline of the Roman Empire, and laid the foundation for the medieval kingdoms that would emerge from the ashes. Despite the violence, these struggles also fostered cultural exchange, blending Roman and Germanic traditions into a new European identity. Would you like to explore specific battles, tactics, or cultural consequences of these brutal conflicts in more detail? Banda NOI. Teep. ChatGPT da NOI. ChatGPT. 10. The Alemannic Wars and the Battle of Strasbourg, 357 AD. Key event: the Roman counterattack against the Alemanni. Key figure: Julian, later Emperor Julian the Apostate. The Battle of Strasbourg, also known as the Battle of Argentoratum, was a critical engagement during the Roman campaigns to repel the Alemanni, a Germanic confederation raiding Gaul. Brutality: The Alemanni had raided Roman towns and villages, leaving trails of destruction. Roman reprisals included the wholesale slaughter of captured Alemanni warriors and the forced displacement of their families. The battle itself was a bloodbath, with Julian's forces inflicting massive casualties on the Alemanni. Surviving warriors were enslaved or executed. Outcome: Julian's victory at Strasbourg temporarily stabilized the Rhine frontier, showcasing Roman resilience even in the empire's declining years. 11. The Gothic sack of Athens and Corinth, 267 AD. Key event: the Herulian and Gothic raids on Greece. Key figure: Gothic and Herulian raiders. During the crisis of the 3rd century, the Heruli and Goths launched devastating raids into the Balkans and Greece, sacking major cities. Brutality: the raiders destroyed ancient cities, including Athens and Corinth, looting treasures and killing or enslaving thousands of inhabitants. Temples, libraries, and other cultural landmarks were burned, erasing centuries of history. Outcome: